Hey, what's up, Slunts? Joker here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Assassin's Creed Unity again. I know I already did an Angry Fat Guy video for this, but just a ranting series where I just get a lot of stuff off my chest about games. But this is going to be, my more serious review, and I'm titling it my honest review for Assassin's Creed Unity. I'm doing that for a reason. I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there right now, and people that just want to put their heads in the sand and try to ignore the fact that there are a lot of glaring issues with this game, issues that Ubisoft has even come forward now and owned up to the fact that they're going to work on fixing these issues. And I hope that they do because, under all of the issues, there could possibly be a solid game here, but we'll get into everything, throughout this review. But before we go ahead and jump into everything, let's go ahead and take a look at the graphics options, just like I always like to do at the beginning of any of my reviews on the PC. Alright, so here we are in the graphics options menu. As you can see, you can set your aspect ratio 16:9 resolution. It has support all the way up to 4K. Refresh rate, nice to see that Assassin's Creed Unity is supporting 144 Hertz. Whether you're able to hit 144 frames is another issue. But, in Assassin's Creed 4, the game was capped at 60 FPS, so it's nice to see that you can go all the way up to your monitor's max refresh rate here. Very, very nice for us 144 Hertz users. Window mode, you can go full screen, borderless window, or windowed, whatever your preference. Brightness, you can adjust that. Graphics quality, this is just your basic settings. We'll get into the advanced in a moment. VSync off, stretching, not really sure what this is, but it doesn't really seem to change anything when I tried applying it and unapplying it, so just left it on. And then advanced graphics, there's really not a whole lot, but they do have some stuff. Environment quality, texture quality, shadow quality is on PCSS. That's an NVIDIA exclusive technology. So if you are using AMD, you won't be able to use the PCSS shadows. Ambient occlusion HBAO+, that's also an NVIDIA exclusive technology. Besides that, it has just SSAO, so just two options there. Or if you're running don't have an NVIDIA card, then just SSAO, screen space ambient occlusion. And then finally, anti-aliasing quality, which I'm running on FXAA. Because TXA is just not stable at this point in time, and neither is any of the MSAA settings, and from what I've tried, the frame rate just kind of tanks if you try using any of those. And then rounding it off, we have Bloom, which I've gone ahead and left on. So as you can see there, not a whole ton of graphics options. It would have been nice to get, a few extra sliders rather than just having like a detail slider. I would have liked to had, motion blur, depth of field, all of, everything broken down, each individual option. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare recently, they had a great graphics options menu. I would have loved to have seen something that detailed in this game. I'd like to see it in every game, to be honest. And maybe that's contributing to the fact as to why maybe people are having some performance issues, because they can't tweak those individual little options here and there to get the game to run optimal on their system like you could in other titles. And the performance is really suffering. Running Titan Blacks, I've seen people getting around the same FPS that I am on my two 780s, as well as people on 980s. So, there should be a variation there. They should be getting a lot more frames than what I'm getting. And running around the city and stuff like that, I'm getting anywhere from 60 to 80 FPS on Ultra with the anti-aliasing turned down. I'm also using a SweetFX profile to inject SMAA, which helps out a little bit, but there's still some bad temporal aliasing that could have been helped by the TXAA option. Unfortunately, when I use TXAA, I see my frames tank down to about 60 on average, and sometimes even dropping into the mid-40s. Not to say that doesn't happen with the anti-aliasing turned down to FXAA and just the SMAA injector that I have, but it doesn't happen as often. It's a lot more consistent. It's at least playable. I can play it on Ultra with the anti-aliasing to FXAA. And everything else is turned up full to the max. So if you're out there and you're trying to run this game on a really low-spec machine, you're not going to have a very good time. I cannot advise you pick up this game if you're running anything less than the minimum system requirements, which unfortunately is GTX 680, which is, still a pretty high-end card. It's like the equivalent of a 770. So that's, it's still a pretty decent machine. You need there to at least run it at a decent frame rate or something playable, whatever you would consider playable. Personally, for me, I wouldn't play it on a card like that. I consider it just playable now as it is. So performance issues aside on Assassin's Creed Unity, there's still a lot of other bugs in the game. There's a lot of issues with NPCs, sometimes maybe just floating in the air. There's some clipping issues with objects, particularly like chests on the ground. Sometimes you will just kind of mount on top of a chest, and it'll be kind of difficult to get them off. You have to sit there and like try to wiggle them off of the box a little bit so you can get them off the chest and back onto the ground level. There's also a lot of issues with the animations jumping around the world. Sometimes it'll seem like, the game is not really sure which animation to give you, really. You'll be doing animation like you're doing a fast descent down the side of a building, but you'll be jumping through a window. Just little things like that, and it just adds up, and you start to notice it over time, and it really does break up the gameplay and the fluidity that you would be accustomed to from previous Assassin's Creed games. The types of issues that we see here, you should not be seeing from a seasoned developer and publisher like Ubisoft that have been making these games for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years now, something like that. They're making Assassin's Creed games for a long time. They should have this shit sorted out, but they're having all of these issues, because they tried to be too ambitious with some of the things that they've done. And they didn't have enough time to do it, and I also think they spread themselves too thin. They just put out Assassin's Creed Rogue at the same time on the older consoles. They didn't need to do that. They don't need to sit here and cater to an older generation of consoles. Don't get me wrong, I like the fact that Ubisoft is trying to be ambitious. They're trying new things. They tried out a new combat system, which I really didn't feel worked all that well. It felt very, very clunky. I like that they want to make the combat more difficult, but I don't think what they have right now is working. At least not in the current engine or the current way that it's coded. Maybe they'll get that ironed out in the next game. I don't see it getting patched in this game, honestly. It doesn't feel fluid. It doesn't feel smooth at all. And that's something in the previous Assassin's Creed games which has always been a lock. Even though it's been very simple, the combat worked. It worked well. It was beautiful. It's spawned dozens of other clones out there. The Batman games, Shadow of Mordor. All these games that copy it. And they were the originals, and now they're trying to change it up, and it almost seems like they've done too much to it, and they've kind of gone away from the tradition of the series, at least where it's been ever since, like, Assassin's Creed 2. Another area they tried to expand on was the free running. I think the fast descent option is really nice. Now you can hold right trigger and B to kind of just almost like run down the side of a building and descend really fast, but have good animations to go along with it, rather than just dropping ledge by ledge by ledge. And, that is pretty decent, but at the same rate, they've also just done too much as far as other things are concerned, and I don't feel like the architecture of the city really plays very well into the whole free-running mechanics. There's a lot of, angled lines and not traditional, like, straight lines that are, you would see in Assassin's Creed games where you're like, I know I could jump to that. There's a lot of things in this game where you're like, it looks like I can get to that, but you can't. You'll try to jump up to it, and he'll just keep falling down, and you can't actually grab onto it. So, free-running combat, two of the things, Assassin's Creed are known best for, beside its, tower climbing and ridiculous amounts of collectibles and shit like that. Two of the things that it's known best for, and they've just absolutely ruined it. Even though they were trying to be ambitious, and I give them credit for that, they didn't nail it. They did not nail it this time around. So speaking of the extra content in the world, there is a metric shit ton of it. With all previous Assassin's Creed games, it's got the typical climb up the tower, you unlock the area, it unveils a whole bunch of shit in that area, and then you go get all the extra shit. It's rinse and repeat, as they've done with every single title, but they've really gone the wrong way with this one as far as some of the other elements. There's certain chests that require an online connection just to open, and then there's other ones that require this ridiculous mobile app just so you can open the chest. And, what are people supposed to do that don't have smartphones, or maybe they don't have the internet, and they're just getting this game for the single player, because Assassin's Creed is one of the, few solid single player titles you can expect each year to come out and give you a decent amount of content, and now part of that content is missing for those people. And, that's really, really disappointing. A lot of people play Assassin's Creed to do the 100% completion on the game, and now that maybe these elements they won't be able to access, that's really singling out a certain group of people and saying, you can't finish this game. And it's really, really shitty of Ubisoft, and personally, I don't know why they did it. It wasn't necessary. They didn't have to do it. As far as the story is concerned, it's pretty typical Assassin's Creed fare. You start off, it shows you when you're younger, and there's something that happens, and then you're transported 13 years into the future, and now you're like a young Frenchio. That's what I like to call him, Frenchio. He's Ezio light, basically. He looks kind of like Ezio. He's got the same ponytail, and he's young like Ezio was in Assassin's Creed 2. And maybe they'll decide to go beyond this game and continue on with the story. But you never know. The world of the game is also absolutely beautiful. The architecture is very, very impressive, despite the issues you may have interacting with it and climbing on it. It's really, really nice to look at. I have to, take my hat off to the artwork team over at Ubisoft. They've made an absolutely gorgeous world for you to run around in. It's just a real shame that the coders didn't, follow through on their end to make it a fun world to be in, so that you wanted to spend a lot of time in it. Playing this game more than any Assassin's Creed game in the past, I felt like I just wanted to rush through the story so I can get, enough out of the game to be able to give you guys a solid review and my impressions on the game. And I didn't want to spend any extra time doing any extra shit. I didn't want to get any chests. I didn't want to do any side stuff at all. I just ran straight through the missions because that's all the world really invited me to do. As that's how I felt anyway. I didn't feel like I wanted to be in this game any more than was absolutely necessary. So that's going to go ahead and pretty much wrap up the review. For a final score on Assassin's Creed Unity, I'm going to give it a very disappointing 5 out of 10. I cannot recommend that anyone go out and buy this game right now, even if you're a huge, huge Assassin's Creed fan. At least not until they get the game patched. And maybe you can go get it on G2A, cheaper down the line. Right now it's $60 pretty much everywhere, but I have seen it on G2A for around $42, so maybe it'll be worth it to you at that price. To me personally, it wouldn't. I would like to see it maybe 8 months from now on G2A. Maybe it'll be like $7 or $8, which is what I wound up paying for Assassin's Creed 4 just a few months back. And, I enjoyed that at that price, and I got a decent amount of, time out of it, and I finished it, and it was, it was a decent game. I just wish I could say the same for this one, but maybe it will be worth it to you to pick it up down the line a little bit cheaper. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, stick a like on it below. Don't forget, you could always follow me on Facebook and Twitter at JokerSlump, or get back to my channel anytime by going to jokerslump.com. I'll catch you guys next time. Ta-ra!